Welcome back to ASEAN Business Report, and let's take a look at the Eurozone in this break. Germany's parliament has voted by a large majority in favor of supporting a more powerful fund to bail out troubled Eurozone countries. Chancellor Angela Merkel received strong support despite criticism of the plan from some of her ruling coalition. Many Germans are against committing more money to prop up struggling Eurozone members such as Greece. There's protests in Athens where international inspectors have held talks in further bailout funds. The measure is expected to pass in Germany's upper house of parliament, where it will be put on a vote on Friday. In the Bundestag, 523 deputies approved the bill to support the expansion of the European Financial Stability Facility, or EFSF. 85 voted against and 3 abstained in the 620-seat chamber. 9 members were not present. Some of the members of Merkel's coalition had vowed to vote against the bill. But in the end, 315 deputies voted in favor, meaning that Merkel did not have to rely on opposition support to get the measure passed. The outcome of the votes was not in question. However, as the main opposition parties, the SPD and the Greens, indicated they would support the expansion of the fund. Before the vote, there was an intensive lobbying by Merkel's Christian Democrats and their coalition allies to pressure the handful of dissidents to get in line. As Europe's largest economy, Germany's commitment to the fund would rise from 123 billion euros to 211 billion. That bigger fund is already being dismissed as inadequate in the line of worsening Greek crisis and the threat of it spreading to other countries. Without the new loans laid out under the terms of a bailout agreed last year, Greece will soon run out of money. Many people believe that austerity measures are pushing Greece's crippled economy deeper into recession and strangling any chance of growth.
A leaked letter to the Italian premier has shown the European Central Bank demanded a sweeping changes to Italy's labor laws and take tough actions to cut the deficit. In a letter sent to Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi in August, the ECB said the severity of Italy's economic situation made bold and immediate action essential. The ECB said its list of demands should be enacted by the end of September. The letter was published in the Italian media on Thursday. Dated 5th of August, the letter came from the ECB President Jean-Claude Trichet and his designated successor, Bank of Italy Governor Mario Draghi. In unusually clear language, the signatories told Berlusconi to make deep reforms, including opening up public services and overhauling pay bargaining and hiring and firing rules. The ECB called for pressing action essential to restore the confidence of investors as market panicked over fears that Italy could be the next country to succumb to the Eurozone debt crisis. The letter ended saying, "We trust the government will take all appropriate actions." A few days after the letter was sent, the ECB began its controversial program to buy Italian bonds, a move aimed at reducing the country's borrowing costs. The letter said Italy should aim to bring the deficit down to 1% of gross domestic products by 2012 and balance the budget by 2013, a year ahead of schedule, to maintain via expenditure cuts. The Italian parliament passed a 60 billion euro austerity package earlier this month, while some tax and budget changes were introduced. Others, including pay and pension reforms, were implemented either partially or not at all. Opposition parties in Italy said the disclosure of the letter proved that Berlusconi had placed Italy under the trusteeship of the ECB. On Thursday, the central bank sold 6.9 billion euros of bonds, but at sharply higher interest rates. The yield on the 10-year bond rose to a 5.86%, up from 5.22% last month. And we will discuss the Eurozone crisis with Kuntoni Lohit-Nawid, now Director of Midas Capital. Welcome to the program, Kuntoni.
Yes, hello.
Good afternoon, Tony.
สวัสดีครับ What is the outlook of Eurozone crisis now that Germany has agreed to help Greece?
I think this is just putting it on a temporary hold. There's nothing fundamental that will address the structural core problem, which is the debt itself and the amount of interest that they're paying on the debt. So I see this as temporary, if at all, delaying the problem. So it's basically kicking the can down the road again. So that's unfortunate, but we're going to see the markets will probably react to this. Each time some temporary solution happens, the market will react even shorter and shorter to it. So this might not even be that long before the markets turn negative again.
I see. And Tony, in your opinion, this contagion problem, will Italy become another big problem as the European Central Bank calls for Italy's deficit cuts personally?
Italy it will not become a problem. It already is a problem. It's just a case of when the market will turn against it. That's unfortunately what's coming down the road, and Spain as well. Those two countries alone, we're looking at trillions, into the trillion mark in terms of debt. And you see, because the debt is so big, there's no way that they can now just bail out these economies. It's too big. Where they're going to get the money from? Even Germany doesn't have enough money, unfortunately. So ultimately, what they really have to do is looking at default and how they do that. That's the question.
Defaulting. What about printing more money? Is that a possible outcome?
It's possible, but that in a way is defaulting because you're devaluing what the core value of the money is. So the market's going to view that as a negative if you're ultimately going to print every last single dollar of debt, or euros in this case. But I don't think it's going to come down to that. There's probably the market will probably call the problem quicker than they can even react to it. So.
Okay, and on a side note, U.S. growth figures forecast has been looking better than expected. So is there a chance for a hopeful terms for the sustained recovery?
I think the market has decided that the U.S. is looking a lot better at the moment than Europe. So any positive news piece or fundamental fact that comes out of the U.S. is going to be exaggerated, you see, because capital's turning to the U.S. naturally. And then once the European crisis is over with, and likely to be over with in a bad way, then the eyes will turn to the U.S. and looking at the bad situation that the U.S. is in itself. And that's when everything will be the same that was for Europe, for the U.S., unfortunately. But at the moment, it's the lesser evil. So that's why you see that things are looking better in the U.S.
And previously in the week, Mom Luong Priyathorn has said that the Eurozone crisis resembles the Tom Yam Goong crisis that we've seen in Asia and in Thailand in 1997. Do you think, is it worse or is there a better outcome?
Well, you see, the problem is that when the crisis happened in Asia, all the people around, all the Western nations were advising on austerity, which is never a cure, because just think of it like when you're in such a frail state, you shouldn't be going on any extreme kind of cure. So it makes the situation worse, which is what now they're advising to Greece and in England. And look what's happening. There's riots, there's unrest, because when you're in such a frail state, you can't have such an extreme cure. So this is what we're seeing now in Europe. And unfortunately, it just makes it harder. You can't recover in such a situation. So that's what we're seeing. The same thing that's happened here is happening now over there. So they haven't. What politicians show to the market is that they never learn from any crisis that's ever happened in history. They don't look at history as a lesson, unfortunately. So we have to keep repeating the wheel. We have to keep inventing the wheel.
Okay, well,
Just
thank you.
never learn.
Okay, thanks so much for
No
your
problem.
time and your share today.
Thank you very much.